Morning, everybody. Welcome to another session of research methodology. And this is a program where we are actually learning the basics of research methodology. And research methodology is quite a big kind of subject. It's an enormous things you need to learn. So what I thought that instead of going for advanced thing, if we learn the basics of research methodology. So we have discussed basically a research methodology steps, and you can see that we talk about the concepts, we talk about how to select a topic, we talk about research design, what should be sample size, what kind of questionnaire you need to find out for your constructs, for your variables, or if you don't find out a right kind of questionnaire, then you need to justify why you are going to build on a new kind of questionnaire. Now these things are very important because as a researcher we already have discussed, you can talk to someone who is your good friend in English department, and you can find a good person in English department and stats department, those who will be helping you for your data analysis, one, and secondly for your English, because you cannot do everything yourself. But as a scholar, as a researcher, it's your duty, dear friends, to understand the concept. You need to understand what kind of objectives you have, what kind of solution you're gonna provide, right? So don't do everything yourself. So let us move together today. A very important thing, we have learned that hypotheses are basically at empirical level, propositions are at qualitative level, and that example we have already have discussed. Before we go into making hypothesis, like you might have noticed that two kinds of hypotheses we make. One on empirical level, where we actually prove with some tools and techniques, with statistical tools and techniques, our hypothesis. Second, what we do, we see on qualitative level, we define the concept, we define some proposition, and draw a kind of relationship, association, or want to see some kind of impact between two or more than two variables. So this we do. But here, conceptually, do you understand hypothesis? Especially, I'm talking about testing hypothesis, because already we have discussed how to make it. So at empirical level, we have discussed that you have variables, relationship between variables would be your hypothesis. And you can select any two variables if you want. You can talk about your own research, and we can discuss here that okay, this gonna be your hypothesis. Now most important thing, how to test it, how to test the hypothesis, and what would be the concept, what would be the basic understanding of testing hypothesis, how you gonna interpret it. And then generally you might have noticed there is a term called p-value, which is very common among researchers. Why it's very common? Because you always pressurize on a person who is analyzing your data, that please make it sure that p-value must be less than 0.05. And I hope you remember yesterday we have discussed why this 0.05, why 5%. And then there is another term which is basically these all terms are technical. Now as a technical person, if you are in stats, you might be understanding these terms from stats point of view. But as a researcher, don't you think you need to understand these all terms from conceptual framework, from conceptual understanding? You need to understand, you need to check, you need to find out some way so that actually you can understand And what is the concept of this hypothesis testing? What is the concept of p-value, and what is the concept of confidence interval? So I request you all, please pay attention today, because if you are able to, this is a bit tricky, and things are tricky here. Y less than 0.05, y less than 0.01. So this is what you need to understand these all terms. Why confidence interval? Why we go for confidence interval? Why we check R value with P value? And what is the interpretation of that? What is the concept of that? And then how to test this hypothesis? What is the basic understanding of hypothesis testing? So today we're gonna discuss it, everybody. So I welcome you again to this program, and good morning, everybody. I hope you can put in your chat box so that say hi, everybody. Say good morning or say hello, so that I can feel that you all are with me. So I request you all, please say hello. Let us continue about hypothesis, p-value, and a confidence interval. I receive a lot of calls from scholar. Sir, what is this p-value? I say that just find out when you test your hypothesis in statistics. When you use some statistical tool, check p-value, and if it is less than 0.05, you should start, feel happy that yeah, you have done a good job, right? So let us see, and I request you all, we will take on each and every slide good amount of time to discuss it. Now see this left side. On our x-axis you can see experience, right? Experience, suppose you are attending this online class now, right? There may be few those who got some experience among you. There may be few of you would be having no experience in attending this online kind of program. So those who are experienced, what kind of satisfaction they will have, and those who are joining us first time online, what kind of experience they would have. So this is a kind of what we need to do. Suppose we make this survey among all of you, that we would check two variables we have, experience and satisfaction. So experience we divided that you have some experience to attend this kind of online program, and second option, we ask all of you that you don't have any experience, no experience at all. So we make this survey among all the participants, those who are joining us through YouTube and through this Google Meet also. So suppose we make this survey and we want to know your satisfaction level. So I don't know what would be the response, but I thought I should find out some way. So this was my perception. So on the basis of my perception, I designed this. So let us see. So the question arises here. You can see, are people satisfied with the online course? So this was the one question. Are people satisfied with the online course? So suppose I make this kind of survey among all of you, right? This is the one question. This is the one question. Good morning, Ripu. I can see you all when you give any remarks on your chat box. So here I can see that a lot of people have joined us. So good morning again, everybody, those who have joined us late today. So my question here, before we jump into hypothesis, I think on the left side, this chart is clear to all of you. We want to see how many people among you are satisfied with this online program, with this online FIP, right? So we have some assumptions. So here we have one assumption, which is you can see everybody. Sorry, people with experience are happier than having no experience in online learning. So this is my assumption. So or you can say I collected some data from all of you, and then I got some clue, I got some idea that people with experience, those who had some kind of experience of online learning, online kind of FDP or FIP, they would have they would be more happier than those who were having no experience in online learning. So here you can see first question. Then on the basis of some theory, on the basis of some logic, we put these remarks here that people with experience are happier than having no experience in the online learning. Here also you can see a similar kind of information. Here you can see the experienced people here, their satisfaction level, if you compare it with the non-experience, it is high here. So it is, you can see here, this second line also reflect on this chart. Now this box plot show relationship between experienced and no experienced student or participants. Experienced students are more satisfied than no experience. So now you can see we had this question, are people satisfied with the online courses? This was the question, and we wanted to find out answer to this particular question, and we saw that in general, on the basis of review of literature, on the basis of some logic which has been published in earlier reports or in research paper, what they say that people with experience are happier than having no experience in online learning. And when we collected data from all of you, we also find similar kind of thing. Here you can see in box plot, it is showing us some kind of relationship between experience and satisfaction. So what kind of relationship you see? From none to some, when you are going up in terms of experience, your satisfaction is also increasing from 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8. So here you might have noticed very important thing that those who are participant in this program, they would be more happier if they have had some kind of experience. If those who are joining us first time, they may have some technical issue, they may have some limitation to understand what's going on online, maybe in terms of interaction, maybe in terms of understanding, maybe in terms of chatting. So it could be a kind of not a good experience, or then they will not be satisfied, right? So I hope this is clear to all of you that we had some question and we had seen some logic, and then we collected data, and here you can see everybody, the response is here, which is saying that yes, this is on the basis of experience. We can say if people have more and more experience, the people with more and more experience will, their satisfaction would be more and more, right? So I hope this particular sheet, this particular PPT is clear to all of you. Why I'm going slowly? Because this all is tricky. If you miss any point, then further you wouldn't be able to understand it. So I request you all, when we are discussing, just leave everything, because if you miss anything, you wouldn't be able to understand later. So I request you all, please join us. Come with your pen, pencil, notebook. Please listen, please note down, and at the end, if you have any query, any question in your mind, I will be happy to answer. Because this is a kind of FIP where you are learning basics. Basics means the concept. So in future, suppose you are a research scholar or someone else asks you what is hypothesis, then you will be able to define that when you have constructs cannot be measured at all. For that you need variables. So variable is the terms which you can measure with the items, and with finally with the help of attributes. And how to make question? Here you can see question. What is the theory or logic? Here you can see theory and logic on the basis of review literature. Then what you did, you collected information from all. Why I'm repeating 3 or 4 times? Maybe if you miss something, this kind of repetition will help you to understand it, right? So I hope this is clear to all. Let me see your response in your chat box, everybody. So let us proceed further, everybody, if this particular thing is clear to all of you. Now, so people are happy with the course if they are experienced. So this is a final conclusion of the question we have. Are people satisfied with the online teaching, online learning or not? Then what we did, we collected data and we plot them on a plot box, and then we saw, yes, those who are having experience, their satisfaction level is high. So what we can say that yes, so in conclusion, people are happy with the course if they are experienced. Do you think, because here whatever we did on the basis of a sample, can we draw a conclusion that all the population, those who are student or those who are teacher, if we make a survey among all the population, whether they are teacher or student separately, do you think result would be same? Let me see, everybody. So let us continue. Here you can see this result, this outcome was based on a particular sample. What if the sample was from other college? What if the sample was from other state, right? So it depends. So we cannot say that in all situation answer would be this. So can we say that this was the answer, this kind of data we have collected, this is because of by chance? This we have received, this kind of data, because of one incident, and this is by chance. Can we say like this? So here what is the problem? The answer would have been different. We are getting something else. The reason is here you can see that we are working with a sample, not with the whole population. Is this a real? Tell me. Can I see the same thing if we run it again, or it was a coincidence? It was by a chance. So whatever you can see here in this example also, we can say, so it's a tricky now, remember. So whatever result you get, you can say, left side you can see those who are experienced, their satisfaction level would be high in comparison to those who have no experience at all. So this may not be real. This may be because of some coincidence. This is by chance. Please note down. I hope up to this point, second slide, things are clear to you. This is the conceptual understanding of hypothesis, right? So should I go ahead? Let me see, everybody. Okay, so let us move together, everybody, if things are clear to all of you. Now, in this relationship of experience and satisfaction, right? In this relationship between experience and satisfaction, what would be our null hypothesis? Null hypothesis would be that the findings in the sample is due to chance. It's a coincidence. And why it's a coincidence? Because it could be because of sampling error. Simple. Is it clear? Tell me. I will not go further if this is not clear to all of you. So what is null hypothesis? The null hypothesis is that whatever result you got, this was because of some sample, right? Sample is due to chance, and this due to chance sample result you got because there was some sampling error. Agree with me? Say yes or no in your chat box. Then I will proceed further, everybody. I will move step by step so that you will not forget in between anything. Okay, I got an answer. Ishan say, okay, Monica, you got this, what we are talking about. So you need to be a bit vigilant why I'm asking you to say reply, to reflect on what I'm saying so that I can feel you all are with me. Okay, so null hypothesis is clear to all of you that whatever result we have, this is because of by chance, because of coincidence. And why it's because of chance, by chance or coincidence? Because of sampling error, simple. So I hope things are clear to all of you. So simple, very clear, it is just a coincidence. So whatever result you get with your survey, with your questionnaire, what you need to draw from this survey, from this questionnaire data collection, that whatever data you have, it is by chance, it was just a coincidence. Is it okay, everybody? This coincidence is because of sampling error, because samples are estimate and estimates may be wrong. I hope there is no doubt. No two different opinion, no second opinion. You all agree with me that why I'm telling you this, because this is a bit tricky and people, they are not able to understand what is this hypothesis testing. So whatever data you're gonna get, what would be your null hypothesis? That my null hypothesis, whatever I have, this is by chance. So what do you want to do? Do you really want to reject null hypothesis, or you don't want to reject null hypothesis? Do you want that whatever result you got, this was because of one coincidence, or this was because of chance, by chance? So you would never ever like to have any kind of research, any kind of analysis, any kind of output, any kind of result which is based on a concept called by chance or by coincidence. Would you like to have that? No. Right? So here it is just a coincidence, whatever result you have. This coincidence is because of sampling error, because sampling errors are estimates and estimates may be wrong. Now, here you see in this sample, people with some experience, people with no experience. You see there is a difference. Those who have some experience, their satisfaction is high. Those with no experience, their satisfaction is low. They look different in sample, but not really different in the population. So difference in the sample is not real. It is not actual story, right? So in population, what would be there? That there is no difference between the people, those have experience, with experience and no experience, their satisfaction is equal. Are you with me, everybody? I just take a pause here, right? So it's tricky, so that's why I'm going a bit slow, everybody. So this is a problem of null hypothesis. This is a kind of problem with the null hypothesis, that whatever data you have collected, whatever analysis you have made, in null hypothesis, you need to make that this was by chance and this is not real. What is not real? Here, experienced person, their satisfaction, whether they are experienced or not experienced, it doesn't make any sense. Actually, their satisfaction level is same. Why we have this difference? Why people with experience, they have a high satisfaction and compared to those who have no experience? It is by chance. It is a kind of coincidence. So what is the null hypothesis? Null hypothesis that actually there is no difference between those who have experience and those who have no experience in terms of their satisfaction. I hope today you got basic understanding why and how do we decide what should be the null hypothesis. let us move ahead. So I hope this is clear to all of you, my third slide today. So here you can see where there is no, here you can see this mu is about population. So population of some, population of this some, they have some experience, minus population of none, this none, it's equal to 0. There is no difference. But what you perceive, what you want to see, alternative hypothesis in population, what you are predicting actually with the sample, a population. So here what population will have? Population will have that with some experience response and with no experience response, it would not be equal to 0. Is it clear, everybody? Here you can see mu represent, it's a parameter, right? So which is the characteristics of the population. So in population, what you are estimating, that what would have been there in population, those have experience and those have no experience, their satisfaction level would be equal. That means there is no difference, it would be same, that would be 0. But alternative hypothesis, what you say, that some minus none, those have some experience and those have no experience. If you minus it, it would not be equal to 0, right? That means there is some difference. Is it clear, everybody? Let us move further. So it might be that averages are actually equal. So in last one, this average, this we have calculated average actually. So these average are equal. So letter mu, so this is actually a mu, which is a parameter of population, characteristics of population. Mu says that at population level, so with the help of sample, what we are predicting? Population. So at population level, the difference would be 0. It means there would be no difference between those who has some experience and with those have no experience in terms of their satisfaction towards what? Towards online learning as a student. So now you can make a question. You can make your null hypothesis and you can make your alternative null hypothesis. But now you know what is null hypothesis, why it's 0, right? And why alternative hypothesis is like this. And hypothesis is what? Hypothesis is showing you something what would be there in the population and what you have, a sample size, right? So here you see it's a tricky one. Why it's a tricky one? One, because we are talking about population on the basis of some sample, and whatever result you get in your sample, it may be because of coincidence, and that is coincidence means that there is no difference. Here you can see the first null hypothesis, but when you collect data you feel that it should be like this, so that is your alternative hypothesis. So there may be a difference, we call it alternative hypothesis, right? So you make this survey, you went to other place, you saw other survey, there could be instances that it could be reverse also, this relationship. With experience their satisfaction would be low, with no experience their satisfaction would be high, it could be, right? So whatever you feel that this could be the possibility, that would be your alternative hypothesis. Null hypothesis, this line please pay attention everybody. Null hypothesis tell us that effects are by chance, due to by chance or by coincidence. On the other hand, if you think of alternative hypothesis, what we do, we would like to know the real trends, what is going on in that particular community, in that particular college, in that particular city, in that particular town. Is there really a difference? And that real effect, that is called alternative hypothesis. So we always assume, we always estimate, we always predict, we always presume that in population there would not be any difference. But actually we conduct it on the basis of sample, you saw that there is some variation. Variation may be this way, like with experience their satisfaction would be high. It could be other way around also, right? So that is called alternative hypothesis. Thank you very much. So one caveat here, remember, whenever you are supposed to write the testing of hypothesis, remember, you never ever will write that I accepted null hypothesis or I accepted the alternative hypothesis. You are not supposed to accept any hypothesis either, right? Always remember, please note down this magical word today, that in your research you can't say that I accept this particular relationship. You can't accept it. You have two solutions to write your result. First, you would be the happiest person if you write, or if you got some data, some result, some analysis where you saw that your null hypothesis is rejected. So you can reject your null hypothesis, no problem. But by chance, if you have your alternative hypothesis and you have rejected your null hypothesis, right? So what you will be saying, I rejected my null hypothesis. If by chance you got such kind of analysis where your null hypothesis is not rejected, then what you will write? Will you be writing that I accept my null hypothesis? No, you can't write it. So what is the alternative? So first alternative is, if you reject your null hypothesis, you can write, I have such kind of information on the basis of a data and analysis, I reject my null hypothesis. But in other way around, you cannot say I accept my null hypothesis or alternative hypothesis. What you need to write, I was not having sufficient data to reject my null hypothesis. But don't say that I accept something. Please note down why we never ever accept anything, whether it's an alternative or null hypothesis. Please note down, and I will answer to this question at the end of the discussion today. So I request you, please note down everybody, and please remind me at the end what would be the answer, that why we can't say that we accept something. We always say reject, or we don't have sufficient information to reject this particular hypothesis, right? Okay, so is it clear up to this point? We are going a bit slow, I'm sorry for that, but this is something which people don't understand, and they don't understand that what they are testing, what they should write, and what is this null hypothesis or alternative hypothesis. Now, as Monica has asked for second solution or second example, here is the second example. Monica, you can see this is information of a particular organization, and we collected data. Suppose we are collecting data from Prerna College, and we are taking information from all the teachers or faculty members and non-teaching staff also, right? And we want to know that if we engage more and more employees, do you feel their performance level would be high? So we want to check it. So we have two constructs. One is employees engagement and second is employees performance. So what is your opinion? If we make this survey, what would be a general perception? General perception, if you go in the books, in the review of literature, it will say that more and more engagement of people in the work will help in more and more performance of the employees, right? Let me come back to you and see your. So here you can see relationship between engagement and performance, and this blue line shows that as you engage more and more employees in terms of time, in terms of efforts, you can say their performance level moves up. I agree, as per your response, up to some extent it can work, but if you engage them beyond certain period of time, or maybe in terms of efforts, the rate of return in terms of performance would be start coming down, right? So here I collected data from people from one university, and I saw that I'm engaging more and more workers, more and more employees, and their performance is going up. And I can see your response. You mentioned, no sir, it's not mandatory. So what would be null hypothesis, everybody? Now tell me in this case. Then we will proceed further. So suppose now we take it, instead of engagement and performance, suppose it's a performance and engagement. What would be your perception? You want to have, you see that performance is going high. Does it mean that you are involving more and more people, or engagement of people is high? Can we say like this, everybody? Whether it's a engagement or performance or engagement, at null hypothesis level, which is reflecting on a population relationship, it would be a straight line that whether you engage people more or less, your performance remain same, right? So whatever result you are getting, whether it's a negative or positive, here you can see this scatter plot showing here this diagram, how engaged employees are on x-axis, how they perform on y-axis. As per the sample of data, it is upward trends, right? I hope you understand this. More engaged employees are performing well in theory. So if you go through the review of literature, what is theory saying? Theory is saying more engaged peoples, more engaged employees. Now you see in each and every example, I am bringing the logic, and logic with some theory, and that theory is giving us logic. And here what we need to approve or disapprove, beside the hypothesis, what we need to approve or disapprove, the logic also, and behind finally that theory. So remember, whenever you approve or disapprove your hypothesis, you need to see what has been the theory. Here you can see theory is more engaged employees are performing well in theory. And what is there in your sample size? I don't know. Whether your sample result would be same or it would vary. But at null hypothesis, at population, we feel, I don't know about theory, I feel that the engagement of employees, whether you involve them, engage them less or more, their performance remain same. Here again, this result, left side you can see in this scatter plot diagram, that this is because of coincidence. This is by chance of a sample. Actually, no relationship between engagement and performance is there. So what is our null hypothesis? What is our null hypothesis, anyone? Before I show you the null hypothesis, let me come back. These dots are showing a relationship, or the performance and engagement relationship, or individual performance and individual engagement, and then we draw this line. But in actual real sense, when you see this kind of response, you cannot predict. So what we can assume, what we can presume in null hypothesis, at population level, there would not be any relationship. So here you can see trend line may be flat in population, right? That we assume. When this is flat line, so null hypothesis state that the effect is absent in the population. There is no effect of engagement in terms of performance. Whatever is the difference or whatever is the trend in this, the null hypothesis say it's not there, it's a zero. It's a zero. I hope this is clear to all of you, everybody, right? It's clear to all of you with two examples, one with online learning of the student, and then it's about employees engagement and employees performance, that whatever result you get, this is by chance, right? actually in population, what is the result? The result is that there is no difference. Everything is, it's not there, it's a 0, right? So I hope you all are with me right now, and I can see it's already 1 hour. Let us take 2-minute break. And okay, so I believe things are clear to all of you. And let me show you something, so that it will give you more clear idea about what we have been talking about. So here you can see, why did you find something in sample? Sample, we collect information because we cannot afford time, we cannot afford cost. So what we generally do, uh, whenever you collect some information, it's just a random chance that sampling error will occur, right? It's always there that you will see that there is some sampling error, and it's not possible to collect data from all whole population. So what we do, here you can see the effect or relationship in null hypothesis 0, and if you get non-zero against this, and it is representing what population, here you can see, if you get something non-zero in your sample, this would be due to random chance, and it's just the random chance that sampling error would be there. So you can't avoid that sampling error. So one more thing about this, so that we can understand it a bit more. So here in this example, we saw that people are happy with the course if they are experienced. So what we can conclude, so with some question we draw some hypothesis, with some hypothesis we draw some before drawing a hypothesis we saw some logic behind that, some theory, and now we approving and disapproving that theory, and finally we come with a conclusion that yes, we approve the theory that people are happy with the course if they are experienced. That would be the conclusion. But problem is that there, here we are working with a sample that we already have discussed. Is this a real one? Can I see the same thing if we run it again and I repeat again? It would be a coincidence. So now I believe things are clear to all of you. How to reject null hypothesis, that I hope you understand. We need some technique, right? And because it's a basic, so right now I don't think that I'm going to discuss with you. So here I have something I thought I should write for you. Null hypothesis, the effect is absent whatever population you're studying, so the result that you find in your sample was just due to chance. In general, we want to reject null hypothesis. So I always pray to God whenever I collect data, I make analysis. Oh God, please help me. I request you, God, please, please, please do something so that I can reject my null hypothesis. The results are not due to random chance. How to prove it? So my question to all of you, do you want in your research that whatever you are showing, it is by chance, right? It was just a coincidence. So let me see all of you. What is your opinion? Please take your 1 minute time. What you would like to have, that whatever result you have, you want to say that it was because of what you call by chance, or you feel no, it was not because of chance, and I want to make it sure it was not because of chance. So I need your response. Tell me whatever you find, you want with your sample, that this result was because of one coincidence or because of by chance. When we want to reject the null hypothesis, we have to check it with the p-value. And what is the role of p-value in this matter of considering the incident, whether it was a coincidence or it was by chance. So what is the importance of p-value? Next we will discuss about that. So now let me know, before I proceed further, before I talk about p-value which help us to reject a null hypothesis, do you want, I repeat again my question to all of you, do you really want that your result should be by chance, right?